call this meeting to order of Lake Country Classical Academy Board at 6:02 p.m. on November 16th. Would you all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. May the roll call show that all board members are in attendance tonight. Both Tom Gale and Dan Furman are on conference call, and this meeting has been noticed in the Waukesha Freeman on November 10th. So with that, would someone like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So motion by Tim.
Second?
Second.
Tom Brannigan. Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving this night's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is Citizens Forum. I don't believe there's anyone here that wants to speak tonight, so I think we'll keep on going. Okay. Thank you. The next item is consent agenda and approval of the minutes from the October 19th annual board meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Seconded by Tim.
Any discussion?
Motion was by Brian. Tom.
Yes, got it, thank you.
I have no edits this time, Tom.
Can you believe it?
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from October 19th, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. Okay, we're on to discussion items. First up is leadership report by Head Principal Margaret Daniel.
Thank you. You have a stack of papers for me this evening with my report on top. The school performance measures or goals that I'm focusing on in this report are the professional development goal, the reading and math achievement goal, and the enrollment goal. Just begin by reiterating our Hillsdale partnership. I continue to have a monthly leadership call with Mr. Benjamin Payne. I'm providing Hillsdale resources in weekly memos to teachers. The school bell and the chalkboard are their publications sent to us. Our faculty and staff are attending one office hour or Zoom call with a Hillsdale coach per month and providing to administration a summary report of their experience. And I did just attend November Leadership Focus Group in Hillsdale on November 6th through the 8th. In the realm of finance, our enrollment is currently 501 students fully verified with 3 offers outstanding, and there are 212 students on the wait list. We did host a new family enrollment information night last night. We began at East with a presentation. I gave a presentation to, there was probably about between 35 and 40 people in attendance. And after the presentation, we offered tours at both campuses. Faculty and staff gave tours at East, and then at our West campus, we had faculty in the classrooms and the students gave the tours. And there were about a handful of families that came over to West to have a tour here, and the majority of them they'll stay at East for a tour over there. And it was a successful first go, and we'll host another event in the same format on December 8th. Current LCCA families are scheduled to receive re-enrollment information starting in December. We'll begin informing them of what to expect, but the re-enrollment process for them will not begin until January 1st. As far as a business office update, you have several reports in your stack. The first is the income statement. You'll see our income or revenue there in the far right column. And then if you flip to the back side, or I believe yours might be a double stapled packet, our expenses are there as well. The bank reconciliation report is also in your collection. And I'd like to just point out that the bank ending statement is there, that $895,000 amount, with a monthly ending balance of about $723,000. So we have about $171,000 outstanding in the month, and those outstanding expenses are a Hunsinger bill. The bulk of it is a Hunsinger bill. That's the company that we worked with for the upper elementary building, and then we had some curriculum and some other facility expenses that are outstanding as well on that. You also have a budget versus actual report, and this budget to actual is based on the interpretation of the July preliminary budget, and the current actual budget, we're accounting for vendor payments in a few different categories. So I just would like to highlight some that look imbalanced, so to say, for that reason. So if you look at line item 329, the cleaning and environmental services item, the difference there is that our cleaning service for our Mahler cleaning service, our waste disposal at both campuses are included in that line item of the budget now, therefore the higher percentage of it of year-to-date activity. 362 software as a service, we're including in that amount all of the Skyward costs for that new software in the financial realm, in the student information services realm, and in payroll as well. If you look at line item 420, which is, 415, which is food, that amount is the catering expense for the gala. And the apparel line item just after that includes athletics expenses, so cross-country apparel, as well as basketball uniforms and some practice jerseys and pennies that we purchased as well. On the next page, you'll notice non-capital equipment is line item 440, and that is some additional furniture, teacher desks, student desks, chairs, some shelving that we used to equip the classrooms in the upper elementary building. We also had some expense in that line item for keys, for the classroom keys and the exterior keys of the upper elementary building. And then the last item, that's 940, the dues and fees, that is, or now contains our authorizer payment, so that explains the expense in that line item for that one. Then final page is the revenue, and there's just a couple to explain there. Line item 270 is the school activity income, and that pertains to our enrichment registration fees and our athletic registration fees, so we've had some income in that line item. 291 is the gala amount, some donations, that's where we have some rebate programs like Amazon Smile and I just blanked on the other one, Right. Raise Right. Yes, Raise Right. Thank you for those of you in attendance. The last two items, 730 is the ESSER 3 grant, so you can see the 84,000 there as income, and then 780 is that grant we received from Governor Evers over the summer. He doled out some federal funds that he received as COVID relief. The final, just quick update from the business office is that our audit is in its final stages. We're very close to receiving that final and conclusive report. We also will receive our second state per pupil aid payment on December 5th, based on our count date earlier in September. And all of the grant budgets that are required for submission have been submitted. So we are moving right along in the business office. Next on my report is a look at academics and student life. We closed the first academic quarter on November 4th, and report cards went home in hand with kindergarten through 6th grade students and in the mail for 7th through 10th grade students on November 11th. In our student services department, we are compliant in all timelines and timeframes. We have 43 out of 46 students continuing in Environmental Code A. We're working with Seeds, which is our online platform for student services data, to transfer that data into WISE Dash, which is that connection is needed for our student services information to report to DPI, and that we're working on that. We've got some updated numbers. We have 46 IEPs that we're currently fulfilling, 504 plans. There are 31 kindergarten through 6th grade students receiving intervention at East. A parent letter notifying parents of that information was sent with report cards, and we have 2 students in the referral process right now. You'll see here and again in my personnel section that we're looking to potentially hire 2 paraprofessionals and or a special education teacher. I have some standardized testing information. Yesterday, November 15th, the state published the school report cards, and you do have a copy of the first 2 pages of what our report card looks like in the bottom of your pile. It's a little sparse because we essentially did not get graded. We did not really get a report card for the state because we have no historical data to make comparisons to. So you'll see on that front cover page, it simply says that we received an alternate rating of satisfactory progress. And then there's no data to display in any of the other areas, but if you flip to the back side of that report, there's one snapshot of our English language arts performance on the forward exam and our math performance on the forward exam. You can see that in the English language arts section, we have 12.7% who scored below basic in that category, and in the math, we had 13.9% of students perform below basic. So we're performing at about 86% or more as at the basic, proficient, and advanced level, so at or above grade level across the school. This report card will look different when we have a few more years of experience and a few more years of data to make comparison to, but for now, this is what the state published about us. I also followed up, I think Brian had some questions last month about our Fast Bridge data, so I have included a chart there for you to see what our winter map score, our spring map scores, and then now this year's fall Fast Bridge and how they compare, and those are national norms. So the most recent test would have been our spring map test, and in math we had 82.6% of students scoring in the 30th percentile or above. And this fall it was 89.6% of students in the 30th percentile or above. And then for reading in the spring, it was 85.1% of students in that category. And then in the fall on Fast Bridge, we had 86.2% of students scoring in that category. Also in standardized testing, we administered the classic learning test this month on November 1st. The 7th and 8th grade students took the CLT 8. And just yesterday, the 9th and 10th grade students took the CLT 10, and as we consolidate and finalize those 2 tests, I should have data or reports on our achievement by the next board meeting. We did have one discipline issue at West this month. We have a lot going on in athletics, actually. On October 25th, we hosted a basketball parent information night, so the coaches were introduced to the parents, and the parents were able to gather some information about participation in basketball this season and ask some questions. The cross-country coaches hosted a celebration banquet for the team and their parents on October 27th. There was a slideshow and some individualized awards handed out, and a really great celebration of the season and a sort of a final cap of all that those students accomplished. I also recognized those students at a celebratory assembly then on November 2nd, called them all in front of the group, and we recognized their start time race and their season end race and the growth. Some of our students shaved 2 minutes, 5 minutes. We had a student shave 7 minutes off of her time over the course of the season, so it was a really great celebration for them, and the student body as a whole, I think, also enjoyed being able to celebrate each other. Boys basketball began on Monday night, and girls basketball will begin on December 5th, and then that's for our 9th and 10th grade students. Our 7th and 8th grade students, some have signed up for cooperative basketball with St. John's and University Lake School. That also began on November 14th. As far as culture, this month we had a casual dress day on October 20th in collaboration with the Fall Fest that was hosted by the Legacy Committee in conjunction with Holy Trinity's Trunk or Treat, which was on October 22nd. We hosted a fall ball for 8th through 10th grade students here at West with parent and faculty chaperones. That was on November 5th. And we did hold 2 Veterans Day assemblies, one at West on Wednesday the 9th and one at East on Friday, November 11th. And both were attended by parents and veterans in the community. Parents brought family members, friends, neighbors, and we were able to recognize them at both campuses that week. The matters of note include some updates on facilities. At West, we have installed a new starter for the compressor. It didn't start and it wasn't recording air pressure, so we have that taken care of. We had some constant running toilets, and those have been taken care of as well. At East, we have not had any water leaks since the rainstorm on November 4th, but we are still working on getting a new door installed in the penthouse on the roof. We are in conversation with Holy Trinity about the timeline of that repair and work. We're looking at a couple different companies, and that's also what we're working on with Holy Trinity, is an agreement with them as to which quote for that service that we will follow through on. We've also finalized a contract for snow plowing at East, adding the upper elementary building sidewalk and fire lane into that contract, and we've taken care of that. There's a little bit of a punch list for Vesta. We've had some thermostat issues in the upper elementary building, and we're working with Vesta and Liberty Mechanical to get those thermostats reading correctly and working. We have a couple hot classrooms and a couple cold classrooms, so that's in the works right now. There's some tiling issue, and Vesta has agreed to install some new matching flooring over the winter break or the Christmas holiday break. And then some door handle issues, just a couple kinks over there. We're replacing some handles and had to adjust a door frame so that the door would swing and that the handle would latch. And the utility closet door wasn't closing with a slow close, and so we're working on that mechanical closure, having that adjusted so that it's a slower close on that door. In regards to both campuses, we continue to be very pleased with our Mahler cleaning crew. They are hardworking, polite, professional. They adjust for our needs and our schedule and are very accommodating, so we're really pleased with that relationship. And then we did have 2 fire inspections, well, 1 at each campus this month, and we did pass both of those with no violations and no need for adjustments on anything. I know, that was great, good news. Regarding professional development, we had H&I scheduled to make a presentation to faculty and staff on our professional development day last month, and there was a kink in communication and they weren't able to attend, so they were here tonight. Actually, we had a faculty meeting tonight and we just got a quick update, informational session, some tips and advice on managing our healthcare needs and our insurance package, so that was wonderful. And again, a repeat of our participation in Hillsdale office hours. We've also hired a new elementary school teacher. She begins on Monday, November 21st, and she'll be teaching in 2nd grade. You can see the 2 needs are still the paraprofessional And we're always open to adding substitute teachers to our running list. And lastly, looking to the next few weeks, we have a Singapore Math Night parent event tomorrow night here at West. We'll be on Thanksgiving break from Wednesday the 23rd through Friday the 25th. The second new family enrollment information night will be on the 8th, and then we'll host 2 concerts and performances in December upcoming. Mark your calendars for December 15th. That will be here at West, the upper school choir, and the 5th through 10th grade band and orchestra will perform. And on Tuesday, December 20th, the kindergarten through 6th grade choral concert will be held at East. Invitations for both of those events went out today to families. And I think that concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
I noticed a wait list of 0 on the 7 through 10. How many more students could we accommodate in 7 through 10 roughly?
I'm gonna have to look at the numbers on that, Tim, unless
It's a handful.
10th grade is closed, 9th grade, I think 4, I have to double check, I have to look at my numbers for that.
I was just looking for a ballpark.
Sure.
No, that's okay.
Question on the special ed. It's noted staffing is you need 2 paraprofessionals and or a special ed teacher. Okay. And on the back it says just 1 SPED paraprofessional. Is there just some additional resources that are needed? You can comment on there.
We're looking to fill the 2 positions that were vacated after the start of the school year.
Okay.
So we had a paraprofessional at both buildings and have lost them since the start of school. So we're looking to fill those 2 and also potentially an additional paraprofessional or a special education teacher. So we have no candidates for the paraprofessional position at this time. And we are pursuing 1 candidate for the possibility of a special education teacher, but that is those are the most difficult positions to fill in the education arena right now. And so depending on what we might be able to have in the pipeline will determine which positions we move forward with, teacher, paraprofessional, or a combination of the mix.
With respect to the open houses, when people did tours,
Mhm.
how long on average were people in the facilities?
I set a timeline to present from 6 to 6:30 and have tours from 6:30 to about 7:15, knowing that we would be able to lock down the building at 7:30.
Got it.
I was a little long-winded, and so I presented for closer to from 6 to about 6:45. But still, the last visitors left the building at about 7:30, and I believe that same time frame is true at the West campus. I tried to build in some time for people to start with me at East, but commute over here to West
Right.
for the tours here, and I still think that time frame actually worked out really well.
So within a couple hours, it's
6 to 7:30.
got it.
Yep.
Got it. Schools vary wildly on how they handle this, and so I'm just interested, and I think it's something, with a lot of things at the school that you're gonna hone over time, what's working and what's not working.
I sort of picked and choose the things that, from my past experience, that
Sure.
worked. Student tour guides that's a really a winner situation.
It's gold.
Yeah, that's what people are impressed. Well, it's gold when our students are impressive, and our students are impressive, and so to have them give the tours is really a selling point.
And it's a
for
good
the
leadership
visitors.
opportunity for the.
They do a great job.
On this, back to this report card, is this number right? Only 0.5% economically disadvantaged?
Based on the DPI's understanding of our data.
Oh,
Without a free and reduced lunch program, it's difficult for them to accept the information that we provide.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably higher, but it's hard to report.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
How did the snow plowing go yesterday?
Not enough snow to plow.
No.
So great.
So what?
So it went great.
Yeah, yeah, they were phenomenal. Or they were so good that I don't even know they were there, actually. That could have happened. Maybe they were there. I did see Mr. Knapp, though, doing a little bit of shoveling and some salting, so I don't think there was enough cumulative snow at one point to bring them out to us.
And outside of the punch list for the U, what's the overall feeling from students and teachers?
The students and teachers who have class in the U call it the Oasis. So we're arguing right now back and forth about what the name of the building actually is. The teachers appreciate the restrooms, and the students, I think, it just feels naturally like home, and they moved right in and got right back to work. So everything's running smoothly and efficiently over there.
Great. Any other questions?
No, I mean, anything in particular you want to share about your trip to Hillsdale?
I was in a focus group with 4 other school heads, the principal of Hillsdale Academy, the principal of Treasure Valley in Idaho, Steve Lambert, the principal of Seven Oaks Classical near Bloomington, Indiana, Steve Schiff, and the principal of Golden View in Colorado, Robert Garrow, and they have 5, 6, and 4 years in their schools under their belts, minus the Hillsdale Academy, which has been there for 20 years, I think. And we spent the days discussing things that were going well for us and sharing ideas really to Hillsdale about our needs and perspective on what makes quality school leaders. Hillsdale is looking to develop their classical graduate program, the classical education graduate program. They have a residential program right now in its first year with 11 students, and that is a scholarship program, so those 11 students do not pay tuition to participate in that. But Hillsdale, I think, recognizes that if they're going to plant schools across the nation, they should also be developing well-equipped leaders for those schools. And so they were really picking our brains, I think, to know what we thought would contribute to building a strong hybrid program. So they're looking to expand from a residential program only for a graduate degree in classical education to a hybrid program. So our teachers would potentially, if they enrolled in the program, would not be tuition free, but they would move to Hillsdale for the summer, come back, work in their school, take only 1 course per semester while working, and over the course of time earn a Hillsdale graduate degree in classical education. They're also scoping out a plan to take an undergraduate through a teaching experience into the graduate program, into what they're either calling a fellowship or an apprenticeship. So they were asking and inquiring of the school leaders there if we would be willing to take on an apprentice assistant principal for a year and provide them with an opportunity to experience school administration, and then be willing to give them up after that year. And then Hillsdale would look to place them in a school either as an assistant principal or as a new school head. So it really was, I think, more of an informational session for the Hillsdale K-12 team to hear and think about maybe from a different perspective, what might make for or contribute to a strong program that they're looking to build as far as a classical education degree for teachers and potentially even PhD for school leaders.
It's interesting to hear about their interest to move to a hybrid model. There's been an intense amount of pressure on Hillsdale to open up other campuses across the country, and they're very reluctant to do that. This is probably their trial balloon to see how they could compromise on that a little bit.
And they don't really want it to be virtual, they want to maintain some level of person-to-person instruction, which is the summer attendance or residence requirement, and then they're understanding that teachers who are currently in any of the Hillsdale schools are already very hardworking and very stretched, and so to expect in that program only a single credit per semester I think is their compensation and understanding of what that load would really be for a working individual.
Uprooting their whole life for 3 months.
Right.
Yeah.
And then holding down a teaching position while taking a Hillsdale graduate level course.
Right.
It's high demand.
Right. Interesting.
Margaret was also,
Dan, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Dan.
Sorry that I'm not able to be there in person, but my cold and level of coughing and dysfunction is precluding that, so I apologize.
No problem.
So a question on what you were just describing. What's the involvement of Hillsdale K-12 communicating, seeking input from, or communicating to BCSI board members about the types of programs you just described, you know?
Right now, I think they're in sort of the brainstorming phase of the whole thing. I would imagine that they would not communicate out to boards until they have a finalized perspective and view or a finalized program that they're ready to actually roll out. So there was no conversation about presenting to BCSI boards because it's still in the very preliminary stages of a brainstorming phase.
although
Okay,
like,
got it. So it's not a matter of Hillsdale K-12 office collaborating with BCSI boards. It's more a matter of they're going to make their decision and do their analysis and then communicate out their decision to the board.
That's the impression that I have. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Margaret was also featured in a video that, I don't know, it's a promotional video for Hillsdale BCSI schools, right? It's like a new one that they're doing, and
Yes,
she was-
so part of their plan also is they put out a recent promotional video that's on their website now, their K-12 website. They've created a promotional video to entice teachers to work at Hillsdale College schools, and then they're gonna create a video to entice and encourage professionals to want to be school leaders in their network. And so they asked if I would sit for an interview for that promotional video, which I did before I came home.
Yeah, that's an honor. It's a huge testament to
Their
the work
confidence
you're
in you.
doing and their confidence in you, absolutely,
Cool.
so that's great. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Alright, moving on. So the next item on discussion items is the authorizer report. And I actually don't have a whole lot to report on this, other than that, the team has been working diligently and preparing an application, that we're going to be submitting. It's a charter transfer application to the UW System Office of Educational Opportunity. And we hope to be submitting that by next week. And then we hope to hear back from the OEO and their team, by early December. So that's all we really know at this point. So, any questions on that? Okay. All right.
Christine, I have one question. It's Tom.
Yes.
When you say we would hope to hear back, or you would submit the application by early December, and we would hope to hear back from the UW Office of Ed Opportunity, what does hear back mean in your understanding at this time?
At this time, my understanding would be a response to getting a letter of intent from them to move forward with our charter application
Okay,
with the OEO.
all right, thanks.
I know a lot of work's gone into that, Christina, so for everybody that
Yes, thank
has
you to,
participated in the application process, good job.
and Margaret and her leadership team has done a lot of work on that, so thank you. And I know Emily's here, thank you, Emily. Like, there's a lot to that application, so thank you.
And Lori and
Oh, yeah.
Brian on the budget.
Finance, yeah.
Yeah, she's key.
Okay, so moving on to action items. The first item up is the FY 22-23 budget reconciliation report. And last board meeting, when we approved the the budget, it was decided that we would also like to see a reconciliation document on what some of the items were that were over and above the preliminary budget. So Margaret and her team prepared this reconciliation document that she shared with the board, and I'll let you go ahead and present that.
So Lori and I went back to the preliminary budget and the proposed budget, and we worked with our partners at CISA 5 to create the reconciliation report that you received earlier this month. At the end of October, I believe we sent that out, and we presented and discussed this reconciliation report at the Finance Committee earlier this month as well, and there were a couple points that I shared at the Finance Committee that I'd just like to clarify for everyone so that we're all on the same page and understanding the proposed budget that you voted on last month. The proposed budget that you voted on does include a $100,000 retirement plan allotment. As you are well aware, we have communicated and told current employees that a retirement plan opportunity would become available, and we have delayed that a few times at this point. I know in previous board meetings that was a discussion about the timing of a rollout of that retirement plan. In building the balanced budget, I did choose to include this line item in order to proceed with offering that tax saving retirement plan for LCCA employees. And Lori and I are preparing actually additional details. We've been in discussion with several providers and have one that we would like to propose for board approval. We'll be doing that at next month's December board meeting. And in order to be able to roll that out somewhere between February and June of 2023, I did keep this line item in the budget with the hope that we might move forward in allowing us as a group, me as the administrator, to honor the promises that we made to employees about providing such a plan. Also, there's a $60,000 increase to the health insurance allotment as preparing for any employee changes made mid-year due to qualifying events or any additional employees that are coming on as new hires to LCCA within the year. We also had a $60,000 increase for the possibility of an additional special education teacher in the student services department, really compensating for any unknown student needs at the time of the original budgeting. And as we're grappling for paraprofessionals and special education teachers, this line item is important in case I end up needing 2 special education teachers because I can't find any paraprofessionals. So it allows me a little bit of leeway on equipping the student services department to best meet the needs of our special education students. There's also a $90,000 increase in the proposed budget for CISA 5, largely because of the costs associated with the implementation of Skyward, the work on the audit that they've been assisting with, the creation of new and different financial reports, as well as the continued support that they provide our one-woman financial or business office in payroll and accounts payable. As we discussed either in the Finance Committee meeting or last board meeting, I can't recall, but as we move forward and potentially build the business office, we'll look for ways to diminish our working needs with CISA 5, but for right now, we're very reliant on the services that they provide. We also had about $24,500 increase in facility supplies that wasn't in the original budget, and really that increased cost was driven by plumbing, HVAC, door repair, some landscaping, the increased snow plowing. We have rented and currently have 2 storage units behind the east property for stuff. We also have partnered with a pest control company that we didn't originally anticipate needing. We purchased some lift pallets, and we're trying to equip the facilities department with school-owned tools rather than borrowing from either employees or personal family members. Also, there was a $424,000 difference, which reduces to about $333,000 after you take into account the depreciation amount of $91,000 that was included in the original preliminary budget. And really this difference is simply due to different methods of accounting. So the preliminary budget kept the cost of the UB as a surplus, and the current budget accounts for the cost of the UB as an expense. There was a $55,000 increase that we had originally labeled contingency, and we've determined to move that amount to a purchase services line item expense. And then finally, the $100,000 increase, mostly driven by additional startup costs, so desks, lockers, curriculum materials, most of which is associated with the building of the U and our growing enrollment, and most of which is offset by the DPI Startup Charter Reimbursement Grant. So all of those amounts add up to about $820,000 of incremental expense, whereas the total increase was about $910,000, and that remaining $90,000 discrepancy ties back to what we've mentioned, or what I've mentioned before, the discrepancy in the previous budget across many different line items accounted for and explained by the different accounting systems that were used between preliminary and now. And I think at this point, with that reconciliation report and those pointed out specifics, I believe that the proposed budget is balanced and sufficient to get us through the end of the 22-23 school year.
And procedurally, I think we'll go ahead and, before we discuss any of this, let's go ahead and have someone make a motion to approve the reconciliation report, and then to be followed by discussion. So, would someone like to move to approve the reconciliation report for the FY 2022-23 budget?
So motion by Tim.
Second.
Seconded by Tom.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, we had our finance committee meeting on Monday, and we spent quite a bit of time going through the details, so thank you to Laura and Margaret and those that helped you in generating the reconciliation report, and also fielding the questions that we had pertaining to this to better understand the moving pieces. It's a complicated animal, but I think this has been broken down into some buckets that are easier to understand. Go forward, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in some of the other updates. We'll have to work towards an operating surplus so that we can establish, we can meet some of the financial covenants that will be necessary to get a bond to build one campus. Mm-hmm. So those things we'll have to work towards collaboratively to figure that out. But as far as the reconciliation report, I've been satisfied with my questions.
Any other comments, questions?
This is Dan. I, with Brian, have participated in the review and discussions, and I'm also satisfied with all the work that's been done. It's been very good work, very important step forward. One remaining step that's not part of the budget, but it would be the next step after the budget, is to update the 3-year plan in view of the current budget numbers. So that will be a very important step to do, perhaps in the time frame of the next board meeting or soon thereafter. So one of the reasons why the board voted down the 401k in July was because the 3-year plan showed a alarming and growing budget deficit in the out years of the 3-year plan. And so it's fine to look at a budget, but you also have to look at the 3-year plan to look at the trajectory of where this is headed. So now that we have a new budget and we have a whole bunch of new costs in the budget, we have to now update the 3-year plan. So I completely support the new budget, and I think it's great work and great effort, and I support it. But we also have to separately update the 3-year plan, and then we'll also create something new that we haven't done before, which is a 5-year forecast for bond financing purposes, which will be another exercise over the next couple months.
Okay. And I think we're ready for a vote, unless anyone has anything else to say.
I think you mentioned this already, Margaret. does not contain restricted funds, so.
That's correct. The current proposed operating budget does not contain restricted funds. We will establish a separate fund for, any fundraising toward capital campaign new building project and any expenses incurred for that, project as well.
Alright, so I think we're ready for a vote. It's been moved by Tim and seconded by Tom Brannigan that we approve the 22-23 budget reconciliation report. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. On to the next item, which is the revised LCCA admissions and enrollment policy. Margaret?
You received a copy of some revisions to polish up our admissions and enrollment policy before we begin this next enrollment season. The red line items on that document were the edits that I'm proposing, and really the cleanup occurred in how we will re-enroll or how we will communicate and receive re-enrollment preferences from current families. So we will be using a Skyward and a survey where parents will communicate their decision to either re-enroll or not for the following school year. So that's included in this policy. We removed the word open from open enrollment because technically we are not an open enrollment, as most people are familiar with in their residence or district of residence. So we just cleaned that up a little bit. And then we also clarified what sibling priority means, in the sense that for a new applicant to have sibling priority within the enrollment and lottery process, they must be a sibling of a verified LCCA student from the previous school year. So specific to this year, students who are verified within the 22-23 school year and re-enroll to return for the 23-24 school year, any of their siblings would receive priority. And we're simply cleaning up that language so it's very clear and specific to families, current families, and also new families.
Question,
Yeah.
do you think as you're cleaning up that language, would it help to qualify and say a current student who's in good standing with the school?
In what way? How are you defining good standing?
Well, you've referenced that there's been some disciplinary issues sometimes with students, or do you wanna, put additional responsibility on the family that the student's in good standing?
As far as re-enrollment and the lottery process is concerned, that factor isn't actually a qualifying factor.
Okay,
It's a public school.
got it.
The last additional changes are regarding the time frame of returning and in the process. So 5 days to accept an offer, and then 5 business days and 14 calendar days to complete the registration process. And then actually we broadened some of the terminology in regards to when the enrollment window will occur, just because if all of the seats that we have available to offer are filled with after the first lottery, the enrollment period would not last all the way through as it had originally delineated. So nothing of major significance, but just some clarifying details and improvements on wording. So I'm requesting approval of the edited and updated LCCA admissions and enrollment policy.
Okay, before we do any more discussion, let's go ahead and take a vote. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the revised admissions and enrollment policy?
So motion by Tim.
Tim, second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
So just as an example, related to the 5 days where the offer would be available, if we're looking at the offers that are outstanding, like right now, do you have an idea of like how long those offers have been out
The 5-day window on offers is, currently applicable to in school year offers. So in the school year that's already begun.
Okay, so if we approve this tonight, the 3 offers that are outstanding, but they've got like 5 days from today then to accept, or how would that work?
3 offers that are outstanding had 5 days from the time of the offer was placed.
Okay.
Because we're not in lottery season, so the timing is slightly different.
So it's in a lottery season.
Mm-hmm. This will be different than last year's
That
lottery
makes more
season.
sense. Okay.
I thought Tom had an interesting suggestion about considering adjusting the language to say existing students in good standing. Might that potentially head off problems in the future?
I'm not sure, we would have to check with, the DPI has very specific things that you can and cannot have in your admissions policy, and I have a feeling that that would be a problem, but it's certainly a question you could ask.
Okay, something to consider. That sounds like a good idea.
I think Christina's comment is spot on. I think it's a good idea conceptually, but I think it's a potential quagmire. And my suggestion is that, the policy committee take this up at its next meeting and really clarify what BPI's position is.
Thanks, Tom.
Good idea, thank you. Any other questions, comments? I think we're ready to take a vote. It's been moved by Tim Peterson and seconded by Brian Hastings to approve the revised LCCA admissions and enrollment policy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. And the motion passes. On to the treasurer report. Brian.
In last month's meeting, we just learned about LCO and how that impacted the $400,000 term note that we were expecting to receive for financing the U. And I had guided that I felt the liquidity of the school was going to be sufficient between extra revenues from the gala, the expanded line of credit, and additional revenues. Subsequently, Lori and CISA, they've updated our cash projections, and from what I can see in that, that's holding true. It will be tight just before the next BPI payment in early December, but between that and some of the private note holders extending the repayment date into the point in time where the new charter is in place, things look to be in a good spot. So the bank stays ready and willing to provide the $400,000 term note at the point in time where we have a charter agreement in place. So that's really all I have to report from the treasurer's side.
Thank you. Great news. Okay. Then on to committee reports. So we'll start off with finance. Dr. Brian.
Okay. Good first meeting of finance committee. We went about an hour and a half to the second, I think. Just a couple of high level things in terms of what we covered. I guess the largest item to share is that I wanted to provide some details on what Dan and I have been learning regarding potential bond offering to support one campus school. We've talked with 2 investment bankers. We'll be talking with a 3rd over the next few weeks to continue to refine our understanding of how it works and ultimately build a decision matrix at the finance committee level to recommend what investment banking group we want to use. And that group would essentially help us through a underwriting process, getting our financial state, our narrative in a position that looks good, and then they would take us to market where we would have interested parties that buy bonds to buy what we're asking for. So what we've learned so far guess let me take one step back before I go there, is if we were to want to move into one campus, 3 years from when this school year started, and you start from that point in time, so call it September of 2025, there are approximately 18 months of construction for a facility, and that would take us to essentially early 2024 of when we would have to start a construction project. So we would need to have financing underwritten by about this time next year, so about 12 months to get everything put together. So just working from that timeline, that's going to give you a high-level overview. There are two really important items when it comes to underwriting the financing. One of them is a balance sheet liquidity item called, they call it days cash on hand. So ideally, they would like to see us with 60 days cash on hand. In a pinch, 45 days. And what does 60 days mean? Well, if we have a $6.3 million operating budget for this year, take 365 divided by 60, roughly 1/6, and they would need us to have a little over $1 million cash on hand to have a 60-day cash test. The good news is at the beginning of this fiscal year, we had about $700,000. So we were right at the beginning of this school year, right around 45 days cash on hand. So if we're able to build another $350,000 cash on hand between now and the end of the fiscal year, probably first quarter of next year, we would be at a 60-day cash on hand level. So we would meet the overall liquidity test. Ultimately, though, as we build out our 5-year projections, as Dan was suggesting, we'd want to be showing that we can build up to 100 days cash on hand. So that's why it's important in our operating budget that we actually are building a little bit of a surplus and not just having it revenues and expenses matching each other. So that's the first test. The second test is an income statement type of test, and what they use is called earnings before interest, depreciation, and amortization, the acronym EBITDA, and that's more of a GAAP versus a UFAR related term. So we'll have to adapt some of our financial reports to be able to illustrate a GAAP type method. Just doing some quick math, if I were to look at our operating budget today, we would have about $700,000 of EBITDA this year, which is roughly $1,400 a student. So what's important is that we would need to be able to show that we have the ability to pay for the debt service of the bond times 1.2, so there's a little bit of cushion. So depending on the interest rate and the term and the amount of the bond, that would determine the debt that we could handle per student. So this is some of the modeling that we'll have to do in the updated 3-year and 5-year projections is to show that the school has got sufficient operating strength that it can handle the debt service. Some encouraging points to bring to the table. One of the investment bankers that we worked with does a significant amount of independent charter schools. There's many of them across the country that they've helped finance, and they've shared with us some of the financial projections that they've done, so there's things that we can learn from those that have done it before. One of the challenges we have is that we're in a rising interest rate market and construction costs are high. So it's going to be an exercise for us to really dig into, but it's promising and we're learning a lot with it. And as Dan had mentioned, over the next short while, we've really got to dig into this to figure out, are we within the goalposts of what will actually work. So that was one item that we had talked through, and kind of a quick side entree to that would be the financial reporting formatting that we're seeing on Skyward. One of the objectives of the Finance Committee is to be able to present the financials in a way that the rest of the board understands and can be good stewards of the school's financials. So we have some ideas there, and we'll be working with CISA 5 and a few other advisors to see what Skyward's capable of doing, so that we can get some reports that will allow us to see some of these important financial operating metrics that are used for those that will be financing this bond. So, as far as next steps go for the Finance Committee, I mean, there's a lot of work ahead of us, but getting the projection process kicked off is an important next step, and also reevaluating the accounting policies and procedures under the lens of the Finance Committee as a charter today, making some edits to that and bringing those forward. So those would be some of the next steps that the Finance Committee will be undertaking.
Question? The investment advisor you referenced, the one who's worked with other charter schools, and I think that's great, by the way. Like, they know pitfalls and they've probably been through the cycle of a lot of schools.
And some of them done BCSI schools too.
Beautiful, even better. Did you get a sense, do they allude to, when you look at LCCA vis-a-vis its peer group and its age, our financial picture, is it in line with what other schools have been at this point? Is it better, is it worse? How do we fare against our competitive set in this area?
Very good question. I don't have an answer for you right now, but that's something we'll be looking at, is benchmarking ourselves to other schools.
Sure.
I mean, every school is a little bit different.
And there's nuances and market differences.
Reimbursement rates are different state to state.
Right.
And there's other factors that come into play. But the hope is we would be able to put that information together for the board to look at to see where do we stand relative to others, and draw our own conclusions on what we feel would be good for us to follow.
Great.
This is Dan. To that point, we've reached out to a number of our BCSI colleagues, and we've recognized that we're all going through the same thing. We're building enrollment, we're building a school, we're growing it. We need to develop a financial base, and we need to develop means of financing to build brick and mortar, to build out our vision. So we're all doing the same thing. Now, we have different states and different reimbursement numbers and mechanisms, so those things certainly vary a bit. But there's enormous opportunity here to build on the knowledge and best practices of our peers within BCSI. So the Steve Lamberts in Iowa and the Matthew Kirbys in Georgia, these guys are a few steps in front of us, and we're talking to them, we're learning from them, we're understanding from them, and they're helping us with our understanding of the path forward, which is very important, very helpful, and a huge benefit, quite frankly, of being part of the Hillsdale Member School Network, is we can leverage those relationships and that experience and knowledge.
That's great.
Anything else from Finance Committee? Okay. On to facilities, which is Dan. Are you prepared to give an update, Dan?
I am prepared. Thank you, Christina. So we had our first committee meeting of our reconstituted facilities committee. We missed Tim Peterson tremendously, who was integral to founding this committee. But now that we've separated it out, we're going off on our own like a child leaving home, going off to college, as it were. So thank you, Tim. You've trained us and set us up well. So we decided our three main areas of focus are, number one, to support Mr. Knapp in streamlining the current school facility in any way that we can help support him. 2, to expand the capacity of our current facilities to support the enrollment targets of our 3-year operating plan. So that's obviously specifically building out more mobile classroom units at East. And 3, to support the new building program for our new building. So those are the 3 areas of focus. So regarding Peter Knapp, there's a lot of great expertise on the committee to help Peter and give them ideas and advice regarding expanding our capacity of our existing sites. We have an enrollment plan for the next couple of years, and we are working on obtaining some additional mobile classroom units for next year. And we are developing a project plan timeline and sourcing of those units, and we'll have more to report over the next 2 months. And then the new building program is really yet to begin, but we're ready to get started on that. So that's our charter moving forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Any questions about that?
Just a comment, I did have some discussion today with one of our potential mobile classroom providers, and so I'll be providing John Heller an update. So I suppose he'll be giving the facilities committee the update on that. Is that right, or should I be talking to you?
Yes.
One of you two directly?
You can give that to John, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to fundraising and communications. We met as a committee this past Monday at Brannigan Inc. and had a very productive meeting. And overall, so we started off by TLC always participates. We have a representative, Jessica Schultz, was there. Thank you to participated virtually anyway and gave us an update on what the TLC has been doing to raise funds for the school. And just a quick synopsis on what they're working on or what has happened already. So they've had a couple restaurant nights. The LCCA community has been really supportive with that. We raised a total of $1,014 with the 2 Culver's nights that happened. Lou Malnati's fundraiser is actually happening tonight, so if you want to go get some pizza afterwards, head over to the one in Waukesha or the one in Brookfield. Right? Also, Fall Fest was a huge success. They raised a total of $3,752.87 at Fall Fest. And that was a combination of sales from the bake sales, food that had been donated and sold, and then also there were lots of kids' games and activities, so that was a real success there. Also, the fall spiritware sale, again, raised $1,534.25, and there was an additional sale that we haven't gotten the total on that just yet, I believe, but that's coming soon. So that's wonderful. And then also just a side note that teacher appreciation, they raised $885 for teacher appreciation and bought 2 different Keurig coffee stations at both campuses for the teachers, which was very welcome. So, so total they've raised approximately $6,300, which is going to reimburse the school for costs of the Raptor security system and also partial costs for the Christmas band, orchestra, and choir concerts that are coming up. There's rental charges involved and lighting and sound and all kinds of stuff that requires additional costs. So they plan to raise an additional $2,700 to pay for all of the security and the concerts through we've got the additional spiritware sale, gratitude grams that's going on right now, and they're also going to be selling LCCA Christmas ornaments. So that's exciting. So, anyway, so thank you to TLC for all the work they're doing, and we really appreciate that. And then we also, in terms of fundraising, there were 2 main things that we discussed, and the first one being the LCCA 2023 Liberty Gala. And we had in attendance Marla McCormick, who's the chair of the Gala Planning Committee, in attendance, and she gave a quick update. There was a volunteer kickoff meeting on November 9th that was well attended by old and new volunteers that are willing to help. All the leads for the planning committee have been secured at this point, but we're always looking for more volunteers. So anyone, who's interested, still please reach out if they want to help with that. Some of the planning details were discussed that I won't go into great detail right now, but all the minutes will be on the website if you want to see anything to do with the gala that was discussed. Also, the other big thing that we discussed, which I actually shared with the board yesterday, was a plan that the FCC fundraising and communications committee has been working with Margaret and her team. We want to take advantage of every year. I think it's the Tuesday after Black Friday is a national Giving Tuesday is what they call it. We want to do something similar but not use that same day just because everyone else uses that day, but yet we want to do a whole campaign leading up to and having people give, whether it's the school community as well as our existing donors and community at large that want to support our mission. So we've developed a plan. It's a full week-long marketing plan that has multiple touch points on reaching people, getting them excited and ready to give. They can give at any time, but we'll have some really fun giveaways, including 2 tickets to the Bucks game. That'll be sort of the big prize on whoever gives $250 or more on December 6th, which is the day of giving, LCCA Giving Day. I did send the full plan to the board, so you could see all the various things we have planned for that week. But it should be a really great opportunity for the community, the school community, and the community at large to support our school. And we plan on doing this, making this an annual event where families will know that the fall we're going to be doing our annual drive, and then again in the spring, sort of early summer, will be the Liberty Gala. So it'll be 2 sort of fundraisers that we'll be doing on a larger scale a year. So any questions about that?
Just a quick comment. The Bucks tickets were donated by Brannigan Communications.
You don't.
I think that's awesome.
Allegedly.
Very, very nice.
Happy to do it. The Sacramento Kings game, I think it's on the 7th. I think it's the day after, right?
Yes.
December.
So thank you all who helped with that, and no questions on that, then I guess we're ready to move on to the next item, which is the president's report. And I don't have a report. What?
Christina?
Yes.
Hi, it's Tom. Just a quick note on the policy committee.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. We have not met since the last board meeting due to a variety of scheduling issues, not least of which was my being out of state all this week. But just quickly, Kristen Franke will be a parent member of the committee along with myself and Karen Whipple. And then Nicholas Wagner, he and Margaret have agreed that Nicholas will be the administration's representative on this committee, and we look forward to his input, which we know will be highly valuable, and look forward to working with him and getting to know him a little bit better. And we're shooting for our first meeting the week of November 28th.
Thank you, Tom, and I apologize I should have thought, even though you didn't meet, I should have mentioned that this committee is happening and going to be starting in December.
Yep. No problem.
So we will have all of the final sort of dates and all the agendas and everything for all the committees will be on the website in the very near future, as soon as we get everything ironed out and know exactly when and where these committees are meeting and whether they're in person, virtual, etc. So, okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, any other questions from Dana or Tom? We're good? Okay, so yeah, we have President's report on the agenda, but I don't have anything else to say, so we'll just skip that one for this time around. And with that, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So motion to adjourn by Tim.
Second?
Second.
Tom Brannigan. All in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. and the motion passes.
It was a crisp meeting,
We are adjourning
covered a
at
lot.
7:17.
Margaret,
Thank you all.
I think it's just awesome